We're talking software security at Adobe's headquarters in San Francisco with Brad Arkin, who is the Director of Product Security and Privacy. Brad, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Now, you came on in August of 2008. Things got busy in a hurry for you guys, and there was the big zero-day vulnerability last year. Reports show now that PDF is one of the most targeted file types out there. So you guys are up to a lot, though. Code hardening. Recently announced a new automatic updater for the reader, quarterly patches now, some internal engineering training efforts. So a lot going on. And how is it? This was important for you to immediately apply this upon coming on board?
Yeah, so when I joined the company, my main focus was working with the team that was already in place in order to understand the programs that we had in place already and then gaps that we needed to address. And so the certification program was something that was planned, but had not yet, still work was underway. And so when I joined in August, we made that a priority. We launched it in February of 2009. And since that's gone live, we've had about half of the engineers in the company have gone through at least one round of the certification program. And then we have different tiers of certification that you can achieve, from a white belt, green belt, brown belt, and black belt. And so certain teams have 100% of their staff have achieved green belt. Other teams, they have 80% have achieved white belt. But it's been a really good way for us to measure and elevate the security IQ, not only of the engineers, the developers, the testers, but also the management team and program management, and even executives are taking this training.
Adobe has taken on a lot of criticism. It reminded me a little bit of Microsoft back, a number of years ago. And you guys, as a result, have some of the stuff that you just mentioned. What are you hearing from your customers around security of the products?
Yeah, so mainly the feedback that we get from our customer base are just questions about steps that we're taking in order to secure our products. And so we frequently point people to the Asset blog, our PCERT blog, which are good information resources, and adobe.com/security.
Now, that's new? Has that recently?
It's a site that's been up, and we're doing a relaunch with new information, which is going to come out in a couple of weeks. So today is, we're here towards the end of April, and I think in early May that's going to go live. And it's a site that we're going to continue to refresh with new information. And so in addition to just looking for details about some of the steps that we're taking around software security, we're also getting a lot of detailed feedback inquiries around patch management, the cost of rolling out updates, and what we can do to help our customers manage those costs. And then detailed feedback around configuration choices and support for allowing our users to provide better low-level management of different features in the products that we have.
And transparency, communication, those are huge things for you?
Definitely, yeah. The big thing for us is making the code and the products as robust as possible against attack. And then once you've done that, we need to make the cost of staying up to date as low as possible. And then on top of all of that, we need transparency and communication around the steps that we're taking internally, so that users will have confidence in using our software and understand all the steps that we're taking to protect against the threats that are out there.
And I know you've said that Adobe can do all the work possible internally, but the onus ultimately is on the customer to update those products with the latest versions.
So staying up to date is one of the most important things that users can do in order to defend against these attacks. Just about every attack that we've seen exploits known vulnerabilities that are patched in the most recent release. And so understanding what are the obstacles to staying up to date, and then working to address those obstacles. And so the new updater that we have for Reader and Acrobat, we pushed live for all users in April 13th of 2010. And this is something that supports fully automatic silent mode, as well as semi-automatic, and then fully manual. Right now, the setting has carried across from whatever it was before. For most users, that's semi-automatic. Anyone who wants to manually go in and change it to automatic on a Windows box, that's possible today. And then we're looking in the future about how we can roll more of the user base onto that automatic setting. But right now, semi-automatic is where the majority of users are.
I want to get your thoughts, changing gears a bit, on the disclosure debate when it comes to vulnerabilities. It seems as if it's really peaking again, this discussion. between whether the researcher versus the vendor. So where do you stand on that when it comes to disclosing vulnerabilities?
So so PSERT, our Product Security Incident Response Team, manages the communication with the outside research community, and we are very lucky to have great relationships with most of the researchers that regularly investigate our products. And so we've got our process for how we engage with the outside world posted on our asset blog. And so there's a little flow chart that describes the workflow there. But our goal is that anyone who's doing research into potential security vulnerabilities in our products will communicate the results of that research to Adobe. pcert@adobe.com is a mail alias that'll reach us. And then our commitment is that if you're kind enough to share information with us that a researcher has found, then our goal is to maintain good open communication about okay, we've triaged this is a new issue.
Yeah, and that's where the problem comes in, right?
Yeah.
Is that the researchers say, they do all this work, they submit the vulnerability, and then they don't hear back from the vendor, and that gets them upset, and then maybe they go public with it.
Yeah.
And say, okay, well maybe hurting the customer is the best way to make the vendor react.
Right.
But you try to make it a point to keep them up to date on what's going on as
That's
far as
our goal. Yeah, so we've got tracking databases that we use for every single incident that we have, and our goal is that we'll communicate and say, okay, we've triaged this, we understand it's real, we're working on a fix, we have a fix available, we think the fix is going to be in this release. Depending on our relationship with the researcher, we're frequently able to share an advanced build of the product to say, can you try the test out here? We think we fixed it. What are you seeing? Most of the time they say, yes, you fixed it. Or occasionally they'll say, well, you changed it, but you didn't fix it completely. And we really value that dialogue. That's really important for us. There's been one or two times where something gets lost in the shuffle. We may communicate that our goal is to get something patched, and then we're not able to get it patched when we thought we would. But because we're working so hard to keep that good communication open, we haven't had any of these big media incidents where someone goes public with an potential security vulnerability to sort of prove a point.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always looking for feedback from our research community on things that we could do to better improve the relationships, going to conferences, meeting people in person, jumping on the phone and not always leaving it on email. These are all things that we do to try to maintain better relationships. But it's really a two-way street, and so if someone takes the effort to do this investigation and communicate the results to us, we do our best to share our appreciation and share the feedback on what we're doing about it.
Sure, and I'm sure they appreciate that as a result.
Yeah, that's our goal.
Yeah. The often overlooked aspect of your role is the privacy side of things. You had mentioned some of the stuff going on with Flash Player. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that's happening with Flash Player 10.1, which is coming out soon, is we're going to provide support for private browsing mode. And so if you're doing like incognito browsing or something like that, they call it different things depending on the web browser. Mm-hmm. But starting with Flash Player 10.1, we've worked with the browser makers in order for Flash Player to become aware that private browsing mode is engaged. And then rather than carrying over your settings, your preferences, and other local shared object information, in private browsing mode, the Flash Player will be a completely generic, clean Flash Player instance. And so if you visit weather.com and normally you have your settings and your home location and things like that, under your regular Flash Player installation, in private browsing mode, it would be a clean install, so they wouldn't recognize where you're coming from. And so that's one thing we're doing for Flash Player. We're also working on improved privacy settings and management controls so that it's easier and more intuitive in order to manage the configuration of Flash Player. And then we also look across our product portfolio for other ways that we can help improve the transparency so that users understand what the settings are and then how they can change them if they want to make any changes.
Yeah, and I know with the recently appointed CPO that privacy is a very important thing for Adobe, and you guys are looking to become a thought leader in that area as well.
So we have a Chief Privacy Officer recently named, I think in November 2009, and so I work closely with her to make sure that what we're doing for our products maps to the broader strategy that she's driving. And then really, our goal is that for our end users, the same as for security, that there's good communication about the steps that we're taking, and that we're always listening for feedback and on things that we can do to better align with expectations.
Okay. And give a quick shout out to the enterprise viewers if they want information on what you guys are up to as far as from proactive and reactive, and that you have some blogs, pretty active blogs.
Yeah, so we've got Asset blog is blogs.adobe.com/asset, ASSET. PSIRT blog is blogs.adobe.com/PSIRT, PSIRT. And then I'm on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Brad Arkin, BRADARKIN. And then adobe.com/security is another place that people can go to.
So that speaks to the whole communication and transparency,
Yep.
Piece of the puzzle. Okay, Brad Arkin, Director of Product Security and Privacy at Adobe. Thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you.